talk a little college football. Dan Wolken, kind enough to join us from USA Today right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Dan, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Good to catch up with you. It's been a minute, and I wanted to get some outside perspective. So I'm close to Great Osobor. I do the play-by-play for Utah State, so I called every second of every moment that he played last year. And Utah State knew pretty quickly that they were going to be out of the running on retaining his services. But I don't think anybody truly anticipated that this would be a guy that would net $2 million in NIL from the University of Washington and his former coach in Danny Sprinkle. I'm a little torn on this, and I want to get your opinion because I really trust your opinion on these things. I want to be happy for players that get paid and are able to earn money based on their ability to play the game at the high level. But it also feels like this thing is really just a freight train out of control. And something has got to give eventually. So where are you at on all this?
Yeah, look, it's complicated. And I have always been one who has favored the economic rights of college athletes to be able to capitalize on whatever they can while they're at the peak of their earning power in sports. I mean, I don't know if he's going to be an NBA player. I would say probably not. So this is really the prime opportunity he's going to have to make some money playing basketball, and that's good. That's great. And frankly, it's fair given the way that these schools have made ridiculous amounts of money and not had to pay their labor force. But yeah, I don't know that it's necessarily great for the overall environment when the default setting of pretty much every player or decent player is, well, I had a good year, and so now I'm going to go in the portal and test my market value and who might be willing to pay me a certain amount of money to change schools. It becomes very transactional. And while, yes, sports are a business for sure, I don't know that that's great overall for a lot of people, including some of the players themselves, and locker room dynamics and coaches. I mean, certainly a lot of coaches I talked to this spring were like, I can't do anything right now other than, sit on the phone all day working the portal because that's just what the job is now. And so there definitely needs to be some things adjusted and changed. But the bottom line, I know it's a long answer, but the bottom line to the situation that you mentioned is one of the things that's driving the transfer market to be unrealistic in terms of the values is coaching changes. That's really what is behind a lot of this. So what's happening, and I've talked to a lot of coaches all around the country, different programs, different situations, different levels, but the consistent theme of this era is that, a school will get rid of a coach and the boosters who are supposed to be, putting their money into these collectives and NIL, when they don't want the coach anymore, they stop paying, they stop donating, they stop giving so that the coach can't get any players, so they fire the coach. Well, then they bring in a new coach, and the money spigot gets turned back on, and they shower the new coach with a bunch of money to go get players out of the portal to rebuild a roster. And those coaches, because they're new and they're under pressure, they're basically spending a lot of money on players who really aren't that great. And so that just brings the values of all these guys up tremendously and creates this unsustainable model, and the cycle kind of begins again.
So as bad financially as this resolution could be with the House case, do you think that coming from that will be some level of resolution and some kind of, ability to navigate these waters?
Color me skeptical. I have read. I'm not sitting here working the phones on a daily basis about the House case. I'm doing all kinds of other things, and frankly, I just am tired of I'm tired of this whole situation. But from what I understand and from what I've read and from what I've been told about this, the settlement negotiations, I am confused about how a settlement prevents antitrust cases in the future. I'm confused about how they came up with, $20 million per school in revenue sharing for the players. I'm confused about how, they say, well, players can still do real NIL, but we're going to get the collectives out of it. How does that work? So I'm just really skeptical of the idea that the House case is going to be the settlement is going to end all of this chaos. To me, it still leaves unanswered the collective bargaining issue. And if you really and truly want to get a system in place that is going to be more orderly than what we have now, I just think it has to be through collective bargaining or Congress, creating some kind of very pro-NCAA law, which I think is going to be difficult.
Yeah.
So to not go down the collective bargaining road, I just think keeps a lot of the same problems alive.
What are your big storylines when you look at this upcoming college football season? What has got you fired up, or what is the thing that intrigues you the most about the upcoming season?
Well, the easy answer is Alabama without Nick Saban. I mean, that's pretty intriguing. Kalen DeBoer, obviously a terrific coach, coming off a national championship game appearance at Washington, but you're replacing Nick Saban, and what is that going to look like? And is Alabama? I mean, they're still going to be good. Obviously, they're still going to have really good players, but are they going to be the Alabama that we think we know? Interesting question. No answers to that at this point, especially when quarterback was sort of a questionable position for them, and I'm not sure that's changed very much. The SEC in general, adding Texas and Oklahoma. I mean, the Big Ten you can throw in there as well, although I sort of wonder, those new teams coming in, like, I don't know, like, is USC, where do they fit into that mix, their style of play and all that stuff? And then Ohio State, I mean, there's a ton of pressure this year on Ryan Day because they've got a loaded team. They've got an experienced team. They've got incredible talent, but the quarterback position is interesting and questionable for them. But Ryan Day coming off 3 straight losses to Michigan winning a national title, like it's big. They got to get it done this year.
How much do you think the drop-off comes from Michigan losing obviously a great lineup of players, but also a head coach?
I think it's going to be big. I think it's going to be really big. I'm not sold on Sharon Moore at all. And maybe he'll be great. It's certainly possible. But Jim Harbaugh was what made that engine run. Jim Harbaugh is a unique, special, one-of-a-kind coach. And there were some bumps in the road, but he got done at Michigan what I think very few people, if anybody else, could have done. And he's gone. And I think that's a big deal.
We obviously keeping a close eye on the Big 12 with Utah and BYU in that conference. They lose Texas. You lose Oklahoma. Where does the Big 12 kind of sit, in your opinion, in kind of the hierarchy of college football now that those two powerhouses, at least perceived powerhouses, blue bloods, are out of the conversation?
Well, if you looked at last year, the new teams that came in really struggled overall.
Yeah.
And I think that was telling. Obviously, I have a high regard for the group of five, and those were some of the top programs in the group of five. Cincinnati, UCF. Now how does their talent level coming into the Big 12 compare to the Arizona State, Utah talent level? I mean, certainly Utah, I think, has a longer track record of being very good and understanding their style of play, being very difficult to play against. They should be fine. I mean, on paper, they should be fine. and if not right at the very top coming in. The others, I don't really know how to analyze it because, first of all, Arizona, new coach, lots of roster turnover, total wild card. Arizona State, year 2 under a very young coach. I'm just interested. I don't know. I really don't know. And then Colorado, let's just say I have gone to the side of I just don't think it's going to work.
Yeah, it certainly seems that way for sure. You mentioned, obviously your affinity towards G5 schools. And again, I'm just asking you to look in the crystal ball a little bit. 5, 6, 7 years from now, is the separation between the G5 and the P4 now, is it pretty much like FBS versus FCS? They'll have their own top 25, may even have their own playoff. What do you see the future for those schools that don't get a seat at the big boy table?
Well, I hope that's not the case. I hope that's not how it shakes out. It's in the realm of possibility, but I don't think it's just the G5. I think it's kind of everybody who's not in that top 30 to 40 most valuable programs that is potentially facing kind of an existential threat. I mean, you see what happens now in the ACC, and Florida State and Clemson have made it very clear they want out. North Carolina's got a lot of internal strife and concern about the financial situation they're going to be in. What happens with the ACC and the schools that may leave, depending on how that court case comes out. What happens, the next cycle when some of these top end schools in the Big Ten start looking at the Purdue's of the world and saying, why do you get an equal share? Or why the SEC schools of the world look at the Mississippi States and say, why do you get an equal share? Because you're not bringing that value to the table here. All of this stuff has been heading that direction for quite some time. It's messy and it takes a long time to get there. But the consolidation movement is clear. And at some point, would it surprise me if the most valuable schools in the various leagues get together and say we can sell our media rights as one package, and now we're our own league? That's, to me, where it's always been headed.
Yeah. I want to get your thoughts real quick. I saw your story earlier today and kind of talking about John Rahm. The dude talking out both sides of his mouth. No, I'm still a PGA guy. Nah, but I took the money from the LIV. I got to imagine that's not sitting well with some of his peers on tour right now.
Yeah, look, the LIV situation, I mean, to me at this point, I don't think you can blame anybody individually anymore for taking the money because the PGA's house has been messy internally for quite some time. They've responded very poorly to the threat of LIV from the very beginning, and now the players who have this group of players who's got real influence on the direction of the PGA Tour and these negotiations to bring both leagues together. What's their agenda? What are they doing? Are they mucking things up, or are they really committed to trying to get a deal done, or what? I don't sense a lot of hope really that there's going to get a deal anytime soon, and so you're just going to end up with two tours. And John Rahm made his decision that he was going to go play for LIV, and ever since then it seems like he's everything he said almost suggests he regrets it or wishes he hadn't done it other than the money. But if his sort of initial thing was, well, by going over to LIV, it'll help, speed the process of reconciliation. And that's really not in reality the way it's played out at all. But you can't go back and you can't play both sides here. Right now it's two leagues and he's a LIV guy, and that's the bottom line. And for him to come to these tournaments, the PGA, the Masters, and expect the PGA guys to, address him and talk to him like he's, still part of the family, that's just not realistic.
Yeah. Well, Dan, appreciate your time. We took a shotgun approach, a lot of different topics. Thanks for hanging out with us. Great stuff, as always, at USA Today. I've been reading your stuff for years, and look forward to catching up with you again here soon.
Yep, anytime. Appreciate it.
You got it. Dan Wolken, USA Today sports columnist. Dude does it all. Looking down the list, a lot of stuff on horse racing and the Preakness, a lot of stuff on the NBA Finals, a lot of stuff on John Rahm, a lot of stuff on college football, the NIL, the world we're living in right now.